Today, there is so much to talk about. So much has happened. Something big is happening. Something big is coming. Now, we're not going to hit on every story because, to be honest with you, it's so much. This video would be like 2 or 3 hours long. But I want to hit on a few headlines, things that we're missing, things that I don't understand why we're allowing happen. And then I want you to do a little bit of research. Now, if some of these subjects, pique your interest, please let me know in the comments, because I'm going to dive deeper in some of those. But man, just the amount of stuff going on right now is mind-blowing. Let's dive into these stories, from the Texas flood and some very, very bad data on it, to BlackRock, a new variant, 21 states affected, to the big beautiful bill, and Elon. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today, very quickly, and try to hit on them because they're all very urgent and shows that something's not right. Multiple problems going on, and we need to focus. On the outside, standing, we look like America's doing a great thing, and we look like we're growing, we're exceptional, and it seems like everything is working perfect and everything's moving in trajectory of the right way. I'm scared that is just a facade. Let's jump in. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here. Our goal is not to depress you today on this Sunday. First of all, I hope that you took your family to church. I think what I've realized more than ever, the more I deep dive in news, the more I deep dive in learning how to be more sustainable, the more that I try to figure out the best way, the more I realize how dangerous and how crazy sometimes these stories are, and how dangerous and crazy this world can be. And that's what, again, makes me rely back on the side of saying, it just might be wise just to do things for myself, focus on living for God as much as I can, of course, and then ultimately being the best I can be for my family. These stories represent that. Now let's first talk about this multiple variants, and then we're going to go right into Texas because there's something that we're missing. And then that moves us right into the BlackRock situation. It's just crazy. There's a new map out that's come out. It says 21 states that are affected. I'm going to blow this map up. I don't know if you can see it right there, but basically it shows that there is a new variant. It's called the razor throat variant. At least 21 states have reported this new 19 variant that spreads from China earlier this year. This is newly released data that a private company started saying that there is a problem and they can't figure out what's causing it. It says this new variant really showed its ugly face from June 8th to June 21st. It says it is making very, very big strides in America. Now, 21 states are reporting this, and they're already saying that they're worried about it spreading. What does this look like, and how are they going to, quote unquote, stop the spreading? Do you have to believe in it? No, I told you this before. It's not about what you believe or what you don't believe. It's the fact that if your life is going to town, if your life is working in town, if your life is working for business, if your life is needing to buy stuff from the store, then you will be affected by these things. Also, if your life is tied to government funding, you will be affected by these things. There was a study done that said that Americans are more dependent on government than they've ever been, which means government has the say-so in our lives. It doesn't matter if you believe that, but that is true. So when we hear about these things like these bad reports, the danger is there, not because of the danger of whatever that may be, is the fact that we are so reliant on the government. It said that 41.7 million people per month partake in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, food stamps. So 41 million people, or a little bit more than 41 million people, take in food assistance grants every month. Now, does that make you a bad or good person? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying, though, is you will be reliant on what the government says and the data they put out because you are dependent on what they're giving you. 2023-2024 study shows that only 11% of Americans, up to 14%, so 11 to 14% window, has a savings of $50,000 to $100,000. Plus 80% does not have hardly any savings when it comes to retirement or building wealth. So say 80-something% does not have $50,000 in the bank. Now, $50,000 is a lot of money. I mean, I understand that. I'm not trying to say that every person should have $50,000. Here's what I am saying. If we get to the point of 50, 60, 70 years old and we don't have some kind of money put aside, then what is to say that we don't believe whatever the government tells us, or at least, what if all of a sudden they say, well, you can't get these certain benefits because you don't believe this? You don't believe that's happening. Let's keep on going with these statistics. American just backed the big, beautiful bill. Just passed. Well, as for conservatives, you'd think we'd be happy. Well, guess what that does? That adds upwards of $3.3 trillion worth of spending. $3.3 trillion worth of spending that will have to be printed. It says that by the year 2026 that our deficit will be $50 trillion. We will have over a debt over $50 trillion. Okay, so $50 trillion in debt. We have more people accepting more government handouts. We have more people needing food from the government. Now listen to this. Now, this was applauded, and I'll be honest with you, I applaud it because of the scenario we're in. Listen to this. In this new bill, each child born in America, that is to American citizens, of course, will have a $1,000 savings account put into their name. Now, that is a great thing because people don't know how to save. I don't believe that the government should be giving money to people. But here's why I want to say this and why I believe it's a good thing, because people don't know how to save. If you give that $1,000 to that kid, if that kid lets it grow, and I'm not saying don't touch it. I don't believe anybody should be able to touch it by 18. I believe they should let it grow to their literally retirement age. It said that it would be over $150,000 based on average 8% return of American stock market investment. That's exactly what it's saying. You have to invest in the equities, you have to invest in the stock market in companies that are American based. That all sounds great. And trust me, I actually agree with this versus the way that we're doing Social Security now. But what I'm saying is, did you remember what I just said, that only 11% had upwards of $50,000 or more saved by the time they actually hit retirement, or by the time they hit the middle ages, the golden age for most people? So do I believe this is a good thing? Yes, I do, in an extent, because people don't know how to save money. Now what we just did though, here, I want you to understand this. We are now taxing people as a conservative. This is a conservative Republican legislature and president. We just basically did exactly what socialism is. We taxed individuals, we overprinted the money to then turn around and give it to others and give it to children. Now, in the retrospect of saying this is a better plan than what we have now with Social Security, I do agree with that. But what I'm saying is we're already buying into the situation where government can help us. I just told you that 21 states are affected by this variant. You don't have to believe it. But if you took 41 million people get government food stamps per month, less than 11% of people have actually wealth built by the time they're in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. Also, now we're giving children money when they're born, because ultimately we've realized that people don't know how to save, so that's the only form of savings they may have. And they may have over $150,000 by the time they're actually retirement age. Let's just be honest here. What is $150,000 at 65 years old and you have to live off of it? Okay? So what we just did is we basically built this bill to put us more in debt. We hear variants are happening, and we're actually putting more trust into the government to pay and help us. Every one of these programs, remember, the government does not generate wealth. They either take wealth from other people, or they print money, which ultimately is a taxation on everyone. So this is a major problem. Why? Because every one of these situations, what the variant proves is nothing. What it does show though is, if we believe that we can say that we're not going to believe in something that the government or big business or anyone's telling us is a farce, because we are more reliant on the government than we've ever been, even under Republicans. Now that brings me to the point with Elon, with American policies and this new American, third party. This will be an absolute catastrophe for Americans, especially conservative Christian Americans, especially people who actually do want to cut the budget. Because what you're going to do is you're going to divide the conservatism and the centrist and the right versus the Republicans, which I believe Republicans and Democrats, the two-party system, is a farce and a joke. But instead of trying to build another party, why don't we just tear down the one we have and rebuild it? Trump is a good start to that. RFK is a good start to that, but that is not the answer. Elon and Trump really need to make up, because what's going to happen is you're going to split the conservative vote, and now you're going to actually see socialism win. You're going to see the AOCs win, the Jasmine Crockett's win, the Mamdanis win. But that actually may be what we need in America. Don't hear me out now. Not that I believe in it, but do you realize we push against socialism, we push against communism, we push against government spending money. However, as Americans, we are taking more money from the government than we've ever have in the past. As Americans, we believe they know everything that we should be doing. Now, what we should have done is cut our taxes. What we should have done is cut our budgets. What we should have done is not buy into the narrative of all this stuff that the government tells us. However, we have to buy into it because we're so encapsulated by what the government is giving us. I hear this all the time, and I'm being honest, and you cannot tell me you don't hear this. People say this: I don't want what the government can give me. I don't want anything the government touches. However, what happens is people say, well, if everybody else is getting it, I guess I need to get it too. Am I wrong? Am I right? I remember stimulus being the same way. We were like, we don't want stimulus, it's wrong, but since everybody else is getting it, let me get it too. Now, I'm not saying you're guilty of taking these government handouts. I'm not saying that you should feel bad about that. What I am saying, though, is we are paying into a broken system that the more money we give it doesn't mean it's going to work. It's kind of like fixing a pipe. One thing about water, if you have a leak, it can find literally that leak very, very easily. Now, say I have two PVC pipes coming together and I put a cap, cap them in the middle. I actually get it to where it's sealed off and all of a sudden it starts leaking out of that spot. Now, I can keep on putting tape, I can keep on putting glue, I can keep on putting cement, I can literally wrap it, but ultimately I didn't solve the leak. I just tried to mask the leak. I just tried to hinder it for a little bit, a temporary band-aid. It doesn't solve it. We need to tear it all down and start over. So I'm scared of what Elon is doing is he is literally trying to tape a pipe that's already busted to where we're trying to just get a temporary band-aid to ultimately, it's almost like he's giving the middle finger to the two-party system saying, well, this is going to prove that our system is broken, which it is, but what I'm scared is actually you're going to bring us more into a socialist situation. We're already dependent, as we just talked about. Now we're building a breakdown of really conservatism by putting in this third party, which will ultimately take away from Republicans. This is not a good sign. Now let's talk about Texas. And this is a pretty it's a very touchy issue because there's a lot of people that lost their lives. Why don't you listen to this? Dan Patrick, Lieutenant Governor of Texas, said the Guadalupe River rose 26 foot within 45 minutes. I told you that. I thought that was unbelievable, something we've never seen. I remember watching videos with the guy who lived on the Guadalupe River, who was a YouTuber, and they would be sitting in lawn chairs, and it was just like a trickle. So for that to raise 26 foot in 45 minutes, it's tragic. I want you to listen to this, though. Is weather being manipulated? I want you to go to Twitter and click on Grok. And I asked Grok this. I want you to listen to what it said. There's a sign that showed that in Texas, there's some modification going on. I want you to listen to what this says. I said, Grok, is this true? It says, Texas does have permitted rain enhancements, which is considered cloud seeding. These projects are central areas, including and near Kerr County. As shown in official maps, the NOAA reports from 2025. However, no evidence suggests that this caused and intensified the recent floods. Experts just attribute heavy rainfall, very natural. Now, that might be true. That very well could be true. It could be true that we did not see, truthfully, any sign of this not just being a God thing. However, do your research. Look at the program that Texas started in 2025. Just look at the program. Look at the program and the areas that they wanted to use this enhancement of weather. Just do your research. You cannot tell me things like North Carolina and Texas just happen. There's two reasons. There's two reasons this happens. Man's manipulation or an act of God, like a God's wrath kind of thing. Now, this is National Day of Prayer for Texas, and I am prayerfully hoping they find more survivors. And I am praying for these families. I couldn't imagine what they're I can't imagine what they're going through. But one thing I do not want us to miss out on is if we do a little digging, how did this water rise this quick, and how did it come so much? I know people say, well, it's the mountains. It's a lot of rain falling in one little valley. That could be all it is. It could be something so simple. If that's the case, why do we build in these areas? Let's just clear these areas out, including North Carolina, including beach homes, and get away from all these areas because they're too dangerous to put people in risk, especially a summer camp for children. Okay? So let's just say if this is an act of God and we believe that this is completely natural, let's not put anything else in these areas. Let's just make them desolate country. Let's put some animals there to grow, and during flood zones and flood areas, flood times, we bring them out. Simple as that. Or let's quit messing with the weather. Let's go back. I want you to literally go to Twitter right now. Open Twitter, open ChatGPT, and you say, what program was started in Texas? Do they do any kind of program where they enhance weather? See what it tells you. It's going to scare you, and it's going to make you very upset. Let's go back to what we just talked about with the variant talk and the snap talk. Our life is encapsulated with government. Can you help what Bill Gates or what the NOAA or what the government does up in the sky? You can't. You can't. But what we can do, instead of trying to put a Band-Aid like Elon was trying to do, put a Band-Aid on the pipe with this third party, why don't we just dismantle it and start back over? Now, again, supposedly Republican leaders in Washington calling for more spending. Texas is kind of like Mississippi and a lot of these other southern states. They have conservative leaders, but why do we let stuff like modifications and enhancements actually happen? Well, this area is just dry, so we're trying to find ways to be innovative. Why don't we just let God be God, and if it's meant to rain there, it rains. If it is an act of God, then there's a bigger problem, and we need to quit building in these areas. I mean, there's still cause and effect. You know what I'm saying? There's either we don't build here because it's endangered, and we don't want to endanger children anymore, or we need to quit messing with the weather. One or the other. Both situations should make us learn from this situation. Both questions make us say we need to learn to do something better with the answer. If we keep on building back there and we build another RV park there, that's probably going to not be good. If we go back and rebuild these places in North Carolina that just got flooded out, it probably wouldn't be good. Because ultimately, there's two things still happen. The act of God or more manipulation. Either way, it still allows us to say we should not be building in these areas. The last story I want to bring up, and this is a personal story because someone just told me what they were paying in rent yesterday and I almost fell out of my chair. I had a call where a guy they were getting married, and they were saying, everybody was congratulating them. They were like, hey, we found us a home, great. This little 2-bed, 1-bath home, and they were paying $1,000 a month. And they were like, hey, that's not bad. It's rent. I don't want to buy a home right now. We're going to pay rent. Started doing some digging. The average rent in the U.S. is anywhere from $1,500 and up, meaning $1,500 to, it says $4,000 because places like New York and some of the big cities are way up there in the thousands to rent. The average American in apartments, though, are paying $1,500 to $1,700, which is up year over year 5 to 20% each year. The average American that is renting, over 50% are either delinquent or behind on their rent. Even mortgages that people are paying, 43% of homeowners are delinquent or behind. 52% of married homeowners, 69% of single or divorced or separated homeowners are struggling and feel like their mortgage is a burden on them. So rent is going up, home ownership is at a struggle, a burden, or people are trying to get rid of their home. How much of the market is owned by the biggest players such as BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard? Over 40% is tied up with those three companies. You tie in the first top 10 big buyers, which are big banks, big players like BlackRock, over 82% of the market is tied to those companies. There's a new story that just came out that says BlackRock not only is buying up the market and in full control of the market, they're buying up more real estate. They're buying up more real estate. The rent and mortgages are getting in competitive ways and going up because big players like BlackRock is buying into them. BlackRock just paid, and bought the Panama Canal, became over the Panama Canal. Mike Lee and the Republicans were pushing to get rid of a lot of national lands and a lot of lands that were pretty much tied to the government, which I don't believe America should own all this land. I believe local Americans do. But you know who the biggest buyer, or who was going to be the biggest buyer before the bill got kicked out? BlackRock. Let's go back to the very first of this video. If the average American cannot save money. The average American, 41 million of Americans are now on food stamps programs. The average American has less than $50,000 by the time they actually get, less than 14% have around $50,000 in their middle ages or going into retirement age. We're now building new programs to cause more debt and try to give child money because we see that people can't save money. We see that rent, more people are becoming delinquent. More people are realizing they can't own a home because of the problems and the burdens of it. We see that the government is doing things that we cannot help. If it be modification of weather, or if it be to selling our lands or canals to big business. Now, what do people tell you to do when you're young? Invest in the stock market. Okay, so we're investing in the stock market. Some of the biggest players in the stock market we just read was 43% was BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, which now BlackRock bought one of those too. Do your research. But 80-something% of the market is owned by these biggest banks that are causing the most problems that are tied mostly to the government. So now we're investing into the stock market, hopefully gaining money to get rich. Even the government now is backing, giving $1,000 per child to the stock market, to the equities, the same companies that we're telling you that are causing the problems. And so now, do we see the issue that we have? We have an issue to where no matter which way you look at it, from baby cradle to retirement age and anywhere in between, our government and big business and the biggest players are still in control of us. What I realize each and every day, and I do not want to make this a depressing video, I just wanted to make a very real video. We are literally going down the road of pure and utter control. From the property tax to these new parties that's talking about giving more money to Americans, to saying we're going to cut the budget, but to be honest with you, Elon's not going to cut the budget because ultimately Elon is going to cause for more problems for the Republicans to lose elections, for them people like Mamdani and AOC to win, which wants to spend even more money than Republicans. The balance, the crazy thing is our fight is never Democrats versus Republicans. Democrats want to spend, Republicans want to cut. It's actually Democrats want to spend a lot, Republicans want to spend a lot too, just a little bit less than the Democrats. And all the while, we're now fixing to be in $50 trillion worth of debt. Now, we're going to go on to a video in just a few days talking about how we can get rid of all our debts. America can get rid of all its debts, not have any debt. And I'm going to tell you, it's probably the worst decision that we may make in America. And if you don't believe me, when we say we're going to get rid of the debts, there's only a few ways. And it's absolutely none of them are good. We're in a deep hole. The more we allow for government to give us money, the more we allow for government to take our money but then give us tax cuts, and we think that we're somehow getting out of this, but then we have to print more money so that inflates the economy so we're still taxed. The more we're still delinquent on our mortgages and rent, the more that we then say, okay, well then what I'm realizing is, truthfully, we can't do it without the government, so we need more government assistance. Then we realize when we hear things like the variants or the or we hear things like the variants that are coming or the weather modifications are happening, we say we don't believe in all that. It does not matter if you believe in it. Because if we are so tied to these businesses and this government, and so tied for them to rule over our lives, because that is actually what's happening. We are literally the frog in the kettle. If this keeps happening, it doesn't matter what you believe, because ultimately your livelihood, your whole life is encapsulated by the government giving us money, or allowing us to have money, or taxing you to take from you, or ultimately allowing these businesses to rule over you. That is the truth. I'm sorry. Today is supposed to be a National Day of Prayer for Texas. But the more that you look into these stories, you're like, what we realize all we have is Christ. And we better start praying to Him and understanding that we are in a very bad way. America doesn't need to keep trying to wrap a pipe that's busted. They need to allow the pipe to be on and go and bust, cut the water off, fix it, put it back together, and start back over. That may be hard, but to be honest with you, that is the only way. We are literally sinking our own self in piles of debt, in more dependency of government, and look up in 5 to 10 years, and I promise you, you're going to be in even more of a socialist government. We're literally falling right in the hands of it, no matter if it's got R or D behind the name or the new party with Elon. Either way, we are in problems, and we've got to get them fixed. If we don't fix them, and we just keep mending them, and we just keep masking them, I promise you, one day we're going to wake up and say, I wonder how we got here from, I wonder why we don't have any money. I wonder why the government's too inflated. I wonder why our dollar's devaluing. It's because we haven't fixed any problems yet. Pay attention to these stories, from Texas weather modification to the variants. You may not believe the variants, but if you're so encapsulated with government and big business, whatever they say, whatever they choose to do, you have to abide by. If you say you don't, try to live 1 month without any intervention in government, without any going to stores and buying from these big monopolized companies. You couldn't do it. No, not even me, as a sustainable prepper that raises mostly, literally 90% of his food on farm, it would still be hard for people like me. So if you're saying you raise less than 90% of your food on farm, and you partake in the government teaching your children, you partake in jobs that you don't actually own, then truthfully it's probably going to be even harder for the next days, weeks, and years to come. Pay attention. Please pay attention. And lastly, pray for Texas. Pray for these areas. Pray for God's intervention in our lives, because we need it more than ever. Thank you for watching. God bless.